Hello today, my friends, and welcome to Monday, also known as Juice Time! More, keep going, keep getting, yeah, that's right, yeah! Who doesn't love a Monday? Hello, welcome in, folks, we got energy today. It's Happy Monday, folks, because it's a busy week. Yeah, it's gonna be a crazy week, and I wanted to have extra fun on Monday because there's a real good chance this is the only stream to this week. If not the only stream, I'm going to try and do another stream tomorrow, which is not normal, but from Wednesday until Saturday, we will be doing our moving, getting out of this house and back to the States and settled into our real place. Heyo. So I want to make sure that we get to go over a good amount of I want to make sure we get to go over a good amount of stuff today, have a good old time doing it. And for that reason, I have brought my good old space nerd friends along. That's you. You're the space nerd friend. Welcome. You are part of this. You're not getting out of here. You're not getting away from this. You are Toes Gang. And we're going to be talking a lot today about... There's some interesting news up and about. It's a Star Citizen catch-up day. I was going to go over a couple of the games, but I actually also have kind of limited time today. Because, believe it or not, with the fact that we're leaving indefinitely from here, we don't know when we're going to see people again, so we are trying to do our rounds and make sure we get to stop by the folks, all the folks that we know and love here, and, you know, one last goodbye. So genuinely, I don't think we're going to end up coming back to this city. So, I'm just setting some things up here. Let me say my hellos to the good people of the garden, and then we've got I'm going to give you guys a little last-minute tour of the house. Give you a bird's eye view, if the bird was trapped inside of our house. A bird's eye view of the packing and how's it going, and sort of just like making the point that we are not coming back here. Nasty Master, Tyrus, Maverick, good to see you, dude. Always happy to see you in chat, man. I hope you're having a good day. Nasty, Octo Posey, AAK, welcome, man. You like the funk? You get the dancing in? What's coming up next? What music? What song's next? Give me a good song. Give me something good. No, that's not good. Give me something else. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's good times. Space Guy, Ethnifications, greetings, my friend. Good to see you. 07s, buddy. Welcome in. Dancing crew. I see Vastin was dancing, getting busy. Mrs. Tomato, dancing. AAK, dancing. Caldamo, welcome in. Yui. Good to see you, Yui. Lurch Lord, hello, beautiful people and others, as always. Always calling the others out. Someday I'm going to learn about why you do that. The Slayer, good morning, Mr. Toes. Wolf Blitzer, Akif Meter Beerer. I think I might have said that right. It's the last stream of the week and in Turkey. Unless I can do tomorrow, we'll see. How was your time in Turkey? It was awful. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This summer was incredibly painful for us, and it is why we are not coming back. Tays in one spot for longer than a year challenge, level impossible. No. We've got our mindset. We're good to go. We are convicted. I don't mean in crime. I mean like we feel conviction in our decisions, you know? Hey, Tyrus is actually in chat. Hey, man. Good to see you, B5 guy. Good to see you, Wolf Blitzer. 414 all. Welcome in, everybody. Matt Sully. Estefan Local. You're not living in the States currently? Our home is in the States. We come here to see family. My wife is from Turkey, so we come to visit Turkey every year to give some time to our family and to take care of our niece. Our niece has been somebody that we have been caring for part-time as her caregivers since she was born. And now that she's 6, We're letting her off into the pond to explore the worldwide. No, she's going to school, but we're hoping that she comes to stay with us later on in life. Sylvan, good to see you in chat, dude. How are you doing? Hello, friend. Times sure are timing in a timely fashion these days. Times are time and timely. You heard it here first. Faldorn Sendai. He's on it. He's got it. YouTube. I saw you guys were in here early and active today. I really love seeing the YouTube chat. Before I even get on, Astro Monkey, Matt Sully, and Megatalamilik. You guys are rocking it. Yes, the first EPTU of the year, folks. Like I said, we got news to go over today. First EPTU and the things that it includes. Check this out. I've already got us grouped up here on the tabs up top so you can see what we're going over today. We're going to be talking about Vulkan, the API. We're talking about AI advancements that they, I think, tested today in the EPTU. We're looking at community happiness. This is a segment we did last week and I completely botched it, so I took the video down, but now we're going to do it again with the actual numbers, I promise. And then we're going to go over the core gameplay from the monthly report. Some of you have already heard this. We went over the monthly report late last week, but I wanted to go over it again so we could focus more on the specifics of the core gameplay section with the footage that I know we have and all that stuff, rather than hiding it in a 2-hour rant about the whole monthly report. And then we're going to discuss item recovery and what that is supposed to include with this latest update they're working on there. Is the community ever happy? Well, you will see, my friend. I've got graphs, I've got numbers. It is not for me to decide if someone feels beautiful or not. I'm just being inclusive. You've given them the choice of deciding they are not beautiful. I understand. You are a gracious Lord. It's very kind of you. Cyberbob, hello. Yay, school. Good morning. Yay, school. My mom is actually going and doing like some post-grad classes right now. She's momming, you know, like she's retired. She's living her life. She's doing post-grad classes about the things she loves. I'm so happy for her. Go school, you know? Looks like the Evo Tech preview has been pushed to Wednesday. Oh, yikes. Okay, well, there's news. There's more news, I guess. Now you're going to be a California girl, and then you'll take the niece, and she will be ours forever and ever. With the hostile political climate we're in, I would stay in the U.S. for the foreseeable future. I mean, yeah. Yeah, we are mainly focused on making sure we actually get back in first. That's our first step, and then we start talking about everything else after that. Is the community ever happy? Oh, I already read that, huh? The community is happy when the community tells the community is supposed to be happy. The community is happy when there's like something significant that happens, and it may or may not last long enough. It really depends on whether CIG decides to stick their foot in their mouth with something else at another point. Alrighty, folks. So I am gonna get... Mrs. T has a feed, and we're going to give you a little walk around the house and show you kind of the progress we are going through on packing up right now. I have to stay here on the mic so they can hear me. They can't see you yet, or they can't see the camera yet. Let's see. Supposed to add a browser source. Good. Oh. And... there we are. There's me from another angle. All right, I'm gonna put this right next to me. Folks, so this is our room. This is our studio. As you can see, this corner is still quite lovely and peaceful. Hold on, I bet you I can wait for it. Wait. Check this out. Boom. Yeah, there we go. All right. So this is the corner, right, that you're looking at. But you can see we already took everything off the walls over here. That was all a bunch of other stuff on the walls. We cleared out Mrs. Tomato's desk and her whole corner over there. We've packed all the stuff up. And as she goes out into the hallway, you're going to see the walls are cleared. Taking everything off the walls, and we will be removing most of the things in the house. And this is the last time I guess you'll see the kitchen. We won't be able to do the cooking stream on Wednesday. Really sorry about that. Like I said, we do need to get around and make sure we're saying goodbye to everybody. And the view. But really, we're just kind of... We are removing ourselves. Like, we're taking away the computers and everything so that we're not tempted to come back here. Because, you know, as much as we like it here, it has been it's been 5 years of us trying to make life work here and trying to live with the folks. Hello. And it has not worked. And this year, this summer, made very clear to us that we're not necessarily all that much wanted here. And so, yeah, basically we were here for Dora. And, I mean, case in point, like you guys saw, we brought Dora here because we went to go get her so that she could spend the last week with us. And now, as you can see, she's gone, not by our choice, but more so out of retaliation because, yeah, punishment because we aren't doing other things like skipping work. And I don't know, it's a very weird situation, and it's filled with just not great feelings. Yeah, so we are making a very conscious decision to leave here and not come back. And when we do come back to Turkey, we're not going to come back to this city. We're just going to go see the people that we can, say hi to the family that, you know, actually wants to say hi, and then go back to the States. But like I said before, that's good news for the stream. Oh my gosh, because we're going to have consistent times. The internet's not going to go out all the time anymore. We're going to have water consistently and electricity. So that means that our streams will be taking their normal time again. That's 2 hours after now. So that would be 9 a.m. PST. We'll be doing our streams. And 9 a.m. PST we'll be doing the streams, and videos will be coming out later on in the day again. Family is complicated. Family can be kind of asses at times. Sorry to say. And when people start bringing race into it, I'm over it. I'm done with it. How are you moving the camera with your hand waving? That was Mrs. Tomato. She had the camera. Hope it works out. Glad you guys are taking the initiative instead of more waiting. Yeah, man. It's, like I said, we tried this. We did. It's been years now. I mean, a lot of you have been around for the whole journey. We got flooded out of our first house. There wasn't really much support after that. Our second house got broken down by a storm, and when we asked why nobody helped out with that house while we were gone, we learned that it was because of punishment for not doing what was wanted by other people. So they let the house just kind of, I mean, you've seen it. The floorboards came up. Cats got let into the windows. It was a disaster. This house, we went through all the work of buying and decorating and placing everything from the doors to the kitchen to the bathroom tub. We carried our refrigerator from the other place over here, fireplace. There was no assistance. In fact, Mrs. Tomato got ignored when we asked for help. And like, after all of that, we still came back this summer because we just kind of thought that like, that the whole point we were coming here was for family. And we thought that was a two-way relationship. But over the course of the last couple of months, we realized it's not. And so we're going back. I'd like to thank everybody who did stick with us through all this and did like continue watching and supporting and stuff. It wouldn't have been possible without you. That being said, enough with the sad stuff, because like I said, today is a happy Monday. We're talking about Star Citizen news and reviews. Oh, direct watch parties, nice. It sounds like the EPTU tests got delayed. Let me check out the dev tracker, see what that's about. Both power and electricity. Yes, power, electricity, current, and voltage. I'm gonna be sucking on them amperes, you know? It's gonna be good stuff. It is a good view. It is a good view, but honestly, like a good view is, it gets old much faster than good family. Let's say that. You can buy a good view. Can't buy a good family. Hello, Santantica. Good to see you, Maximus. Welcome in, Wolf Blitzer. Purely virtual. Glad to have you guys with us. You don't need that toxicity in your lives or minds. Bro, guys, the amount of more video work I'm going to get done in a more stable place, I'm really excited. I've been saying over and over that, oh yeah, we're gonna move, we're gonna settle in, we're gonna get more work done, we're gonna get more schedules going. Now we actually have a place and we won't have a lot of stuff hanging over our heads that we had for a while. And I am really excited to be able to focus more on these videos, on setting up these streams to be a little bit more productive and more fun for you guys. We're gonna have the whiteboard back. We're gonna have the Toes Gang whiteboard back, dude. It's gonna be good. Even Wattage Slayer. I would have flown over just for throwing hands, then I'm out. Delay announcements in the Evo chat. Okay, so I won't be able to see that. Well, I mean, I won't be able to show that. Yeah, it looks like there was nothing in the dev tracker here. Riker. You awesome, homie. You get an anime wow for that one. The economy is having issues in the whole place. Bro, you should see the Turkish economy. Hold on, I'll give you a look. Let me give you a look. Check this out. Cause this was the funny thing about living in Turkey over the last 6 years, 7 years, is I got to see what happens when a country does not do the right things with its currency or politics. So here is the, let me show you the 1 year outlook of the Turkish lira. It went from $0.03 down to $0.0246 in the last year. But wait, check this out. In the last 5 years, it went from 0.13 to the dollar, or $0.13. Actually, let me do it the other way. USD to TL. There we go. There we go. That makes it look a lot more understandable. The Turkish lira used to be 7 liras to the dollar. This was around when I moved here. It is now 40. 40. I remember when it was like right here. It was like 9.6 and they were like, it won't go above 10. It's not going to go above 10. It's never gone above 10. And you can go all the way back, and like the Turkish lira literally used to be, like 1.5 liras to the dollar. It's freaking crazy. So I know all about the inflation. I got 4 warnings for Americans, but you know, it's not like that information isn't public. YouTube played ads when you shared the chart. YouTube's in on it. They're blocking it. They're shutting down the news. How long till BF6 gameplay? You've just tried to jump on for a play on SC and really hate moving boxes. Well, I'm going to be on a plane this weekend, so I won't be able to play the Battlefield 6 beta. I downloaded it yesterday, but I didn't get to play it. It shut down before I got to try. When the game comes out, I'm definitely going to play it on stream. I don't know if I'm going to cover it on YouTube, but love me some some Battlefield. That's a good game. That's a fun freaking game. We have a lot of people in the Discord who were trying it out, and they seem to think it was doing pretty well. A couple problems here and there, but good times. Basically got the preview of the US economy. Kinda, yeah. I mean, it's funny because it's sort of like the same stuff is happening in America that was happening in Turkey like 8 years ago. It's a little appetizer, a little teaser. And let me tell you guys, when the prices go up, they never come back down. No, there's like, you can get Turkish stuff for cheaper in Germany than you can in Turkey now, because the companies all just take advantage of the inflation. They just raise their prices anyways. It's good times. What you're saying is we should cash in our 401k and move to Turkey. Dude, give it a go. Turkey's beautiful. And the food is fantastic. We would stay. Like, we love it here. It's just like family. Why do people do things they hate in SC? I don't get it. You mean like play it? Nah, I don't know, man. Because there's not much else to do, maybe? Because they see other people enjoy it, so they feel like they have to. It's like when people see a good game come out, and then they play it for 40 hours, and they're like, I just don't understand why people like this. It's like, you don't have to. You could just not play it. I think my fan keeps triggering the noise. Hold on a second, sorry. Just do the thing. There we go. All right. My fan kept triggering the noise meter, so it kept making weird sounds to you guys. Sorry about that. People do things they hate so they can get account-bound rewards. There is that, yeah. That's true. Been to Starbucks lately? It's already 30 bucks for a snack and a coffee. Ew. Luckily, I don't drink coffee. I just need to put a couple leaves into some hot water and I'll get some tea out of it. Just pick the leaves from outside, you know? A couple blades of grass, maybe a dandelion. Dandelion. No, that would be awful. Dandelions are terrible to put in your mouth. Gross. All right, folks. Shall we jump into some conversation today? Just so you all know, before we get started, dandelion tea is a thing. Oh, that's cool. Good for them. Wouldn't it be great if you were just satisfied by drinking hot water? Or better yet, cold water. This is amazing stuff. Barely even have to buy it. You just go out to your local storm drain and lick it up a little bit. All right. So like I said, this is a little shorter stream than normal because we do have goodbyes and stuff to do. I'm going to try and make it to stream tomorrow because I love your beautiful faces and your lovely chats. So keep an eye out for that. Expect 4.2.1 levels of content for the tech preview. Huh? What does that mean? 4.2.1 levels of content. That's like a whole event. What does that even... I can't even translate that. Either way, let's get into this. News of the day. So, the EPTU, which was supposed to start today on the day of filming in this lovely Monday, has been moved to Wednesday. But that's not going to stop us from talking a little bit about what's included in it. The Vulkan API is a graphics API that allows for different kinds of stuff. I'm not going to try and get into detail about what that stuff is, okay? I'm not that smart, but I have watched a lot of videos on it, and so I can show you guys one of the, or a couple of the videos that we have had on it. I can also show you a little update where Ali Brown, who is the guy who's kind of leading these efforts, talks a little bit more about it. Here is an explanation from 2021 CitizenCon, where they went over the Vulkan API additions they wanted to make to the game. Put nicely, this API allows for the rendering of the game to fall under a new... Hold on a second. Let me hold on. I'm gonna do this so that I don't have to, like, you know, just kind of bullshit my way through it. When looking for an API for Windows platforms, that may be okay. Let's scroll up here. DX11 and Vulkan are both APIs, application programming interfaces responsible for generating graphics in a video game. Depending on the graphics card, they can provide a noticeably different aesthetic experience, so it's crucial to recognize what they both offer. Are you wondering how the choice of API will interact your favorite game, impact your favorite game video performance? Let's learn more to see what the alternatives mean. Now, I'm not going to go through this whole thing for you, but the good thing to know is that this allows your software to interact differently with your hardware. And it has the changeover from DX11 to Vulkan, DX11 being, I think, the standard, I don't know who, is it Microsoft that created DX11? Yeah, DirectX 11. This is where the, DirectX is where the Xbox name comes from. It is a collection of application programming interfaces for handling tasks related to multimedia created by Microsoft. The biggest example I've seen of a efficiency boost from DX11 to Vulkan was Doom. I want to say Doom 2017, maybe? I can't even remember which one it was. 2016, I think. And the improvements were insane.
New Black Friday promotion where you can use my SKG discount code and get 30% off.
Let's see if we can find in here. This is DX11, DX12. DX12 is another standard set by Microsoft. Not exactly what we're going to be using here, though. Here's DX11 versus Vulkan. So you can see the frame rates that he's getting on the same hardware here is like a 50% boost.
Ghost Recon Breakpoint has to be one of the most crippled titles in terms of performance that I've ever seen. When it came out with the X11 only, I was very disappointed to see how badly optimized it was, but gladly a Vulkan update was released. With Vulkan we got a massive performance increase in all resolutions and scenarios, and while with the X11 was a shitfest here, Vulkan actually delivered and made the game playable.
Now we can look at DX12 versus Vulkan as it's being mentioned in chat. You see it's actually pretty comparable. Vulkan's actually running a little bit slower here.
Now with our beloved Red Dead Redemption 2, one of the best games I've ever played. Take-Two can suck a donkey's dick with GTA Trilogy though.
Dude.
In here we have not the X11 versus Vulkan, but instead the X12 versus Vulkan. And since they are both low-level APIs, it is expected that the difference in between them is smaller. And it is in the minimums that the difference is.
Okay, not gonna keep harping on this guy's video, but the idea being that it allows the hardware to work differently, and I believe, as he said, that Vulkan is much lower level in the code than DX11. I can't speak for DX12, but you have the choice of doing DX12 or Vulkan in terms of generational advances when it comes to these APIs. I think they're fairly similar, but I do believe Vulkan gives you still more control and more options for things like running on Linux and other stuff like that. All that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let the actual developers who are working on Star Citizen talk a little bit about this, and then we're going to look at what kind of phases of launching this technology they were supposed to go through, because it's been about 3-4 years since this video came out, and we have seen more and more progress on getting Vulkan into the game. You can choose it as an option right now, but currently they're supporting both DX11 and Vulkan, which obviously means more work for the devs. So here's what CIG had to say about this back in the day.
So what exactly is Vulkan? Well, Vulkan is a modern graphics API that allows us as developers to take greater control over what you as a player sees and also affects performance greatly. As you know, we already have a few areas of bottlenecking on the CPU, but the design of Vulkan allows us to alleviate these bottlenecks by submitting work in parallel to the GPU. So I would like to explain a bit more about the software stack that's involved with our graphics in the engine. So from the image, you can see that we have a renderer front end, a renderer back end, and as well the graphics driver. The Vulkan API generally sits at the renderer back end and allows us a fine-grained control over what we develop and how we develop for it. It also gives us flexibility for cross-platform, including Windows and Linux, and anything we may want to look at in the future. The graphics driver stage is not managed by us, but we look at that and we gather information and process any crashes or any issues that might happen, and then we can deal with those further down the line. So you can see now how graphics APIs have changed over time. We're, of course, in the more modern section where Vulkan is on feature parity, essentially, with other APIs such as DirectX 12 Ultimate. You might also be wondering what a graphics API actually is, and we see that as a tool that is used for development that can interface between your graphics card as a player and us as developers so that we can give you the latest and greatest. Vulkan also has many features and extensions available to it that we will be exploring in the future, such as variable rate shading, bindless resources, and GPU accelerated ray tracing. To address any issues,
Yay,
we
ray
also need
tracing.
to collect data from our players' hardware so that we can use that to target specific features and extensions. We're not aware of any large-scale multiplayer games that captures Vulkan data live in the exact same way we do. Capturing this data allows us to plan ahead for any optimizations and then leverage that for the larger majority of players so we can bring you the latest and greatest. On screen at the moment is a diagram that shows the distribution available for Vulkan API versions amongst currently active players. This was captured in the last 3 months, and as can be seen, there is 98% of players that are able to use Vulkan fully in 1.2. We did see a negligible amount of 1.0 and some that were unavailable. We are actively looking into these cases, especially those that cannot currently run Vulkan as it is seen as unavailable. I'd like to take this opportunity to also say, please update your drivers, as we do see a few cases where this can take you straight to the latest version. I'd like to now explain a bit more about...
He's like, y'all, you've been running the same drivers for 3 years. Please, God, save your computers.
the render graph and how this works hand in hand with the Vulkan API in order to improve our usage of Vulkan.
Okay, so that's an explanation. There's still plenty more in this. This whole video is very, say like dry. It's not boring. It's very good information. It's just, it can be hard to follow. But I'm going to jump forward now to Ali Brown, who kind of gives us a full-on update of how they wanted to roll this out. Again, remember, this is back in 2021.
So we've done a huge amount of work already. The architecture is all in place, and we're using this hybrid rendering approach where we're combining elements of the old and new render at the same time to allow us to move piecemeal to the new system. All of the post effects, fog, and lighting have been converted over, and they're all enabled by default in 3.15. And the fundamentals of scene and geometry rendering are all in place, but they're still being worked on. So our main focus is finishing that off at the moment, and once that's done, our focus will shift to the remaining major systems, which are gas clouds, the render-to-texture system, and a few special cases for transparency. After this, that's where we'll start seeing the public milestones, and the first of that will be 100% usage of Gen 12 and none of the hybrid approach. This will still be at DirectX 11, our current graphics API at this point. And then our second milestone will...
So that's, I believe we were on that for a while. I don't remember when they actually started doing that, but that was a couple years ago. It's actually, I think it's on the roadmap. Let's open the roadmap real quick. I do think that might be able to find that on there. Let's see, 318 might have had that. Yeah, Gen 12 scene rendering was in 318. So new rendering architecture to improve performance. This milestone renders every scene object through the new renderer with optimizations and additional features such as Vulkan coming in the future. So this was with Gen 12 DirectX 11. I don't know if they had put the other... Yeah, and here we go, 3.23. This was last year. Converting the Star Citizen renderer from DirectX 11 to the Vulkan graphics API. This allows spreading GPU submission work over many CPU cores and enables many new tech features that were previously unavailable, such as ray tracing. Vulkan is able to be opted into via the options menu with this release, but it will eventually fully replace DirectX 11 in the future. So that's what we've been on since early last year. That is this milestone 2, I believe.
Will be the Vulkan API release. That will be optional at first and then mandatory after we've removed all the bugs. And then a final milestone.
And so right now, I'm guessing they're getting that sort of mandatory. It's still not mandatory. You can still choose between the two.
So will be when we have performed the optimizations for multi-threaded. So that will only happen once the Vulkan is in place and we can finally look at the performance on the final graphics API and optimize all the remaining code.
So this work that they might be doing might just be that next step in forcing Vulkan to be the standard that everyone uses. But what we have been looking for has been the support for multi-threading on the CPU, which allows them to obviously spread out the work across CPU cores a lot more, but also, as has been mentioned when it comes to Planet Tech a lot, allowing them to use the GPU for a lot more of this work. Now, he's going to talk a little bit more about what this will enable across the game too.
So after Gen 12, I just briefly wanted to touch on what comes next for the graphics team. So a lot of Gen 12 has been focused on CPU performance. So after Gen 12, we really want to start looking at the GPU performance. The first few things we'd look at here were things that wouldn't change the visuals, just improve the frame rate. Things like DLSS, FSR, async compute, and variable rate shading. After we've improved this GPU performance, we want to start looking at some of the more exciting visual features. So then there is also mesh shaders and primitive shaders, which is technology we can use to generate procedural geometry. And this type of thing could be really exciting for things like the planets or asteroid fields where procedural geometry is critical. And then there's the big one, ray tracing. We're very excited to get onto ray tracing, especially to use it for lighting, such as global illumination, but also reflections and shadow quality. There's a lot of exciting areas for us to look into, and we can't wait to get into it. So that's it. Right. I just wanted to say a big thanks to everyone that's been involved in this technology. It's involved the graphics team, engine team, VFX, and Planet Tech all working together on a huge piece of code. And we can't wait to get into your hands as soon as possible.
Thanks, Ali. Now we can jump over to CitizenCon, where they actually talked about this on stage.
Diversity is driven by competition.
So a lot of what they talked about in this was...
We want extreme density, and we want to maintain or exceed all of the quality.
Not that. Here? No. We're going to get there. A lot of the Planet Tech kind of revolves around this.
Framework so that we can run it at both and swap. And now it can run on many cores. This allows it to be run perfectly well on both the CPU and the GPU. So we've redesigned our framework so that we can run it at both and swap between them freely. Now, the benefit of this is we can do things like, first off, move the terrain system to the GPU, and we've now done that to get some incredible performance improvements, but we then also cache the results in something we call a virtual terrain texture. I'll give you a quick demo of this now. This is now vastly faster than the previous system, but it also allows us to generate the terrain in much higher resolution, which means all the popping you can see on the mountains as we're approaching, all of that should be completely eliminated on the right-hand side of the screen.
Yeah! So this is like really just putting pictures and videos to the performance improvements that this kind of stuff will allow. Not to say that this is all because of Vulkan or anything, but a lot of this work, the GPU object scattering, the usage of the GPU for all this kind of stuff is sort of trapped behind that move to Vulkan. Cyberbob, thank you so much for the sub, man. 3 months in. A summer Bob, if I do say so myself. Appreciate your support this summer, dude. Thank you for helping the stream along. You are fantastic. Twitch, y'all been lovely. YouTube, I won't get into
With
it.
the terrain data cached on the GPU, like Ali said, we can perform the scattering there too, which is significantly faster. All those algorithms that we've used to generate those first bits can run there without being more expensive on your CPU. And it also means the results are directly there on the GPU. We can render straight from them.
Now, the other side of this is the other stuff that they talked about, which is things like global illumination, ray tracing, reflection.
Forest as you'd see it without the GI system. As you can see, all the shadows are receiving lighting from the same environment probe, so it's basically just a flat color across. We replace that with around 40,000 mini ray trace probes. Each of them has their own view of the sky, and so that gives you way more contrast and variation as you move in and out of the canopy.
But more.
To do it. And the challenge here, though, is that the ray trace reflections you're going to do, they're not just mirrors. Like, we've got a whole range of objects in the game, from like a scuffed hull panel all the way up to chrome polished pipes.
Yeah, there's your MISC ship's star
Totally
mage.
across that. So I'm going to do an uncomfortably short breakdown on what this tech looks like and how that comes together.
Sphero, thank you
here's
so
what-
much for the sub, man.
here's
Good
what we
morning
need
to
to
you.
do. Now,
Thanks for
obviously,
5
it leaves
months
shiny, but there's
helping
this
out the
kind of
stream, buddy.
fakeness to it. It kind of looks a bit like it's flying. So let's see what the ray tracing looks like. Yeah, it's really noisy and horrible. We need to clean it up. So what we do is we let pixels share their data in space, and then also in time to clear up the final image. And then we let the game's normal anti-aliasing just kind of clean up the last stuff and carry us over the finish line. And that's how you make a chrome penguin.
Chrome Penguin. So that's just kind of an overview of how Vulkan is expected to be utilized here and how they are hoping it will allow them to make the game not only more efficient but also more pretty to look at. Now, here is a recent update from the forums of Star Citizen where somebody asked about Vulkan, what's going on with it, and Ali Brown, the guy, same guy that we just saw, right somewhere here. He was in here somewhere. I'm not going to look for him. But he was the one who was just talking about Vulkan and the milestones and all that. He actually answered some of their questions to let us know kind of where we were in the progress. This was about a month ago, July 7th. So the user asked, for users currently affected by performance and compatibility limitations, it would be valuable to know the current development status of full Vulkan integration. The implementation of all Vulkan features. Whoa! Way to cut me off, man. Cubant over here with the 10 subs. Thank you very much. Oh shit! I mean, damn, hell, dude. They both dropped 10 subs. Jesus, Twitch. You guys are the freaking real ones. Thank you. I appreciate the candor of today. Much love. Blessing turkey on the way out. Appreciate you guys. Who knows? Maybe Mrs. Tomato will hold a giveaway if we match both goals. I do not know when she's planning on ending that giveaway, but you still can get into it. RSI Meteor, guys, check it out. Okay, where was I? It'd be valuable to know the current development status of full Vulkan integration. They were saying. You gonna do a quick giveaway? Twitch giveaway? Nice. Give a big thanks to Shriro, Cubant, and Cyberbob, folks. Y'all getting that Twitch giveaway real quick. The implementation of all Vulkan features could significantly improve overall stability and reduce noticeable stuttering in the game. I assume we may not see this transition until after the release of Squadron 42, as it's likely that its single-player framework is already taking advantage of Vulkan, offering a more optimized experience than we currently have in the persistent universe. I would imagine so. Show? So let's see what Ali Brown had to say to this. So he says, Following on from my previous message on this topic, helpfully posted by Dr. Phoebus below. Why don't we check that one out first then? Where is Dr. Phoebus? Phoebus. Did I spell that wrong? Phoebus. Phoebus. Okay, here's what he said previously in February. The focus for Star Citizen recently on the code side has been on stability and quality of life improvements to existing features, especially after the rollout of server meshing and the huge impact it's had on the game. As a result, the Star Citizen team haven't been able to take full new version of the engine in a while. This is something that has come up time and time again, and is actually could be a big deal for this game. As a result, the Star Citizen team haven't been able to take a full new version of the engine in a while, because this would bring potentially instability and slow down the quality of life improvements for players, and also likely prevent regular timely releases, all of which are critical for continued engagement. Big tell right there. Continued engagement has been their top priority this year, and for that reason, they have specifically not launched new versions of Star Citizen. They have stayed on the same code base for the entire year, which has blocked them from inputting new features, blocked them from creating new optimizations and doing different things with the code that they would need to actually have a new code base for. So, and this is something that good friend and lovely member in the chat, Certified Gumbo, pointed out to me. A lot of features might just be being made to work with Vulkan specifically, and therefore they're not putting them in because they don't want to have to create different versions of the features that might work on DX11 or on Vulkan. And that's kind of being corroborated here. A lot of people will say there haven't been bug fixes, there hasn't been anything that proves that they're actually caring about performance or stability, but the fact that they're not pushing new versions of the game is partially them trying not to do things that break performance and stability. Valentino, thank you on YouTube also for becoming a member over there. Much love to you. Welcome to the crew. I will say this. It came out in the Space Games weekly video today, and we'll probably talk about it a couple of times over the next few weeks, but I will be getting the Jump Ship devs, or Jesus, I'm already doing it. I will be getting the Jump Space devs onto the podcast in a couple of weeks during Gamescom to talk about the new game that they have coming out, their announcement date, name change, the whole shebang. As a supporter, whether you are a Twitch supporter, Patreon supporter, YouTube supporter, you get to see any of these podcast episodes live as they are filmed, and you can access them early over the weekend if you'd like. So make sure to keep an eye out for that if you are. Continuing on this message, he said, the Squadron 42 team have been road testing Vulkan along with HDR and multi-threading rendering, so hopefully most of the kinks are ironed out by the time they reach Star Citizen, though I won't be able to predict when exactly that will be. Yeah, dude. Hell yeah. So now we can look at what Ali Brown's newest update is. He said, in July, we've been integrating the latest renderer and other tech from Squadron 42 over to Star Citizen's main branch and about to begin testing and bug fixing. But don't get too excited just yet. It can take quite some time to get to the patch stream. And then an actual public release, all depends on how successful the testing is. This will include major changes to Vulkan, some upscaling changes, and both CPU and GPU optimizations, though some larger optimizations will come slightly later. Global Illumination will unfortunately not be included as that needs more optimization and is missing a few features for Squadron, or for Star Citizen that Squadron didn't need. So, this isn't Global Illumination coming in, but we should be seeing some CPU and GPU optimizations, which is nice, and possibly some upscaling changes, maybe with DLSS, FSR, and TSG? Something? I don't remember what CIG's version of that is. Maverick, thank you for the bits, man. All right. Next update he gave after that was just asking somebody asked to expand on the tint system. The tint system is what allows us to recolor assets and swap out decals from a library of tint palettes. It's used as part of the skin or paint system for vehicles and items, but is also used more extensively in environments to allow much greater reuse of assets and keep color themes consistent across many assets. Each tint palette defines a primary, secondary, and tertiary color, gloss, and specularity values for each, a set of 3 logo decal masks with 3 associated colors and a glass color. Artists can set up hierarchies of tint palettes such that a whole building can be assigned a hierarchical tint palette that will correctly assign individual tint palettes to each separate element. That is not the easiest sentence to read. The GI system obviously needs to understand the color of the walls to be able to correctly bounce light, and for the most part it already does, but in some cases the system falls back to cube maps. These cube maps have geometry and materials baked in, and this is part that doesn't currently support tints. So the tint system is reflections, global illumination, stuff that can allow for ray tracing, and that is obviously, from what I'm getting from this, it's just, that's hard. It's difficult. So can't give you more on that, guys, but these are words straight from his mouth, or I guess from his fingers. Take it for what you will. He continued down here to give a little bit more of a response on DLSS and on Vulkan optimization. He said, I can't really advise on the specific crashes on Vulkan and Star Citizen right now because they are mostly reported as general GPU or driver crashes with no clear cause until further investigation. The code you're running is over a year old, and we've changed over a freaking year old. I guess it's basically the same stuff that we got from Alpha 3.23. We've changed so much in the main branch in that time, including many such GPU crash fixes, but also the addition of various GPU error reporting systems. So I'd hope these issues will be resolved, and we're not aware of any issues with specific hardware with our internal testing, but that's a tiny sample size versus the public. So if we do find such an issue, there would likely be a point patch to resolve it, with DX11 still being available. Regarding visual issues with DLSS 4, there is a very little control a developer has over this. We provide basic information about the scene, but DLSS has no specific game-provided knowledge about fog or transparency, so that's generally nothing we can do. Besides that, I think that first response he gave was really the most important one, and that was just helping us understand where they are in terms of doing this. And he did mention here that they were going to move over the stuff coming from Squadron 42 into Star Citizen's main branch to begin bug fixing and testing, and that is what is going to happen in the EPTU this week. Thank you, it's TSR, you're right. So we're moving along. This is not the end of the road for optimization or graphics in any way, and this is not necessarily going to introduce anything like global illumination or ray tracing. This is more getting the game updated to whatever their main thread was last year, getting it closer to feature parity with Squadron 42, and sounds like most definitely setting it up for the optimizations they need in order to do things like Planetech V5 and possibly some other things that are only being tested on Vulkan and not trying to see parity in development between DX11 and Vulkan, which could cause a lot of trouble. Does that mean that with this, we're going to start to see a lot more features come into the game? Not necessarily, but it could. Stay tuned, and we'll dive deeper into this after we get some results from this week's tests, but it sounds like because it was delayed, it's still a little rough. So we'll see next week. And there is your update on Vulkan in the EPTU, supposedly happening this week. Brought you to work today?
Welcome, everybody.
Thank you for work, Valentino.
This is your captain speaking. Tomato will be with you shortly.
Board! Mr. Board Gamer and the Board crew. Hello, guys. How you doing? Welcome in, friends. We're going over EPTU news, Star Citizen updates, and toes. We are going to be running a giveaway over on Twitch actually in a couple minutes here, so if you want to stick around, you might be able to win something in the game. What's today? It's Monday. Monday, the good old 11th of August. Senior network admin. Oh, well, I hope I'm not distracting you from important things, dude. Today is less moist. Not if you ask my thighs, dude. Freaking, this chair is such a sweat monger. It's Monday Fun Day, and it looks like we do not have the EPTU today. I think it got pushed to Wednesday, from what I'm hearing. At this point, all of the questing being broken or bugged for the events means they haven't really accomplished their stated goal if their goal is continued engagement. I mean, they've certainly gotten more people engaged than they normally do. I would say the idea of performance improvements is a little more in question, but there's a lot of people trying to move boxes in this resource drive event. You point out that most of the event missions work. You're not making excuses for the problems with cargo elevators not working, but to say that all of the questing being broken seems hyperbolic. The intro missions being broken is really, really annoying. That's the worst part for sure, by far, in my opinion. Hey, Jaybird. Good to see you, buddy. How you doing today? Grim Skunks, good to see you. Welcome in. Next thing we're talking about today is AI. This one's a little more straightforward for us to review here because the AI engagement stuff has really been talked about, mainly in just this one section of CitizenCon last year. Don't think they touched on this at all this year in CitizenCon. And from what I've seen, the devs haven't really been active in answering questions on this, but I'm not exactly sure where they're going with the AI stuff, but I think this might be it. In terms of the testing with the EPTU. Is there a stretch goal for you to jump to your chair like Mario every time? I wouldn't be surprised. There's a stretch goal for a lot of really obscure things in this. Broken intro missions are a good point. I wasn't thinking in those terms. Yeah, it's been annoying. Nav mesh. Have they talked about the nav mesh recently though? I'm looking at kind of just recent inputs that they've given. Looks like Mrs. Tomato just got a little giveaway started for you guys over on Twitch. As a thank you to all you beautiful people over there who've been supporting the stream. Go for Willie, thank you for the sub. I appreciate you, buddy. You get into that giveaway too. Much love to you, friend. Thought I talked CitizenCon 2024. Did they talk about the nav mesh there? I could pull that up. If that is the case. Game dead. Game alive. Gaming dead is very difficult. They talk about it in the Planet Tech stuff. Oh, they did. You're right. Yeah, right here. Good call, good call, good call. Appreciate you. Who was that? Who said that? Aberick. Thanks for bringing that one up. To enter the giveaway over on Twitch, ! ticket, and then the number of tickets you want to get. Each ticket costs 10 Garden Gold. You would have made Garden Gold from watching the stream, following the stream, gifting subs, doing bits, whatever it might be. Feel free to make use of that. All the goth kids game dead. It's all the goth kids and the Halloween skeletons. They game dead. Cannot buy tickets. You use tickets to, well, I guess no, you buy tickets. No, you're right. Is it not working? Hey, come on. What, is it not working? Give me a ticket. Oh, looks like we can't buy any tickets, Mrs. T. Why you lie to us like that, Twitch? It says you have no points. Uh-oh. I have no idea, guys. Sorry, y'all. We'll figure that out and make sure to get that that giveaway working. In the meantime, thanks for the hype train. Okay, realistically, in the meantime, let's talk about FPS. The other part of the EPTU that is being tested this week is, I believe, FPS improvements of some sort. Now, we don't know what exactly that's going to mean. We just know FPS means first-person shooting and improvements means getting better. So, we pulled up the last couple of times they've talked about this at CitizenCon, some of which I think is already in the game to some extent, but we're going to go over what they've been saying and make our own assumptions.
I'm Francesco Roccucci, as you said, and I'm the director in CIG. It's a great pleasure to be here with all of you guys. It's fantastic. So what we're going to do today is to explore how all the work we've done for Squadron 42 is going to flow into the Star Citizen experience. So we wanted to make the AI presentation about how you guys are going to experience the tech and the features we have been working on. So from the player perspective, you've seen how many new opportunities you have. And now it's interesting to see how the NPC are going to react to that. So the goal of Star Citizen is to build a breathing and living environment where your actions matters, and the NPC you will find in the universe needs to have the same opportunities and same limitations that you have. So when we play a game, we want you to spend the time that feels memorable, that feels special, right? Something you can remember and talk about. So we want you to give you a challenge to overcome, but also a challenge that is fun and doesn't feel repetitive and boring. So when we look at FPS encounter, we want to build variety. We want to give the designers, like Zach, the ability to craft combat scenarios, not just to put NPC in the level. And we need to make sure that he can tweak something such that he can experience the unique play style and the play space that you have. So Star Citizen can benefit from tons of unique environments. So for those environments, we want you to have different type of fun. So what we'll look at today is some of the tools that they have to achieve this goal and bring the AI to the next level. So the first tool we're going to look at today is the NPC trait system. So we spoke about this in the past, and we have now available for designers the initial set of traits they can use to influence their behaviors. So
okay, real quick, I want to check something. So I feel like some of this did get put in. Did they include any of this in 323? AI. No, I guess not. I thought that they had started to have some archetypes to the NPCs because it does feel like some of them act different from each other, but maybe that's a more basic. Maybe that's more basic stuff than what they're talking about here, because they do get pretty deep into how these AI will play differently if you listen. Keep listening. Sorry, it's my fault. You could keep listening if I wasn't yapping.
Those are some of the ones that are available to the designers. Today we're going to focus on the combat traits, because we have traits that also apply to the peaceful situation and the social environment, but those are the ones that influence NPCs during a combat scenario. And traits, you can imagine them as characteristics NPCs have or don't have. So through the usage, we can make sure the combat feels different from one encounter to another. Traits in tech-wise, are just traits and tags that we can apply to character instance, character classes, but code can also apply them automatically based on specific rules. For example, if you see somebody with a rocket launcher, those will apply, an example, the sentry trait automatically, because those weapons are weapons that work well at range, so you want them to not push forwards to you. So they allow to block, or actually, they allow or they block specific section of the behaviors to run, but they also influence the likelihood of some logic to happen, or they modify the outcome of specific actions. So let's imagine we want to model a pirate faction, something that you can actually experience in the Pyro playground. So we want them to feel aggressive, but also not very trained. They are not very military. So how do we do it with the traits? We can start adding to this faction either the aggressive or reckless trait, those are traits that increase the risky behaviors. So for example, fighting more in open space or expose themselves longer when they are in cover.
Or not washing your hands.
We can then assign to some of those pirates the ignore fire obstruction trait. As you've seen, for example, in Chris Rain's presentation during the CTG demo, like we have now destructible environment. So what the NPC will try to do is to keep shooting at the position the enemy has been hiding into. So you will see destroying environment, but you will also see them being less careful and managing their ammos. For others, we could use the undisciplined trigger finger trait. So this trait is, for example, meant to convey the inability to control their weapon when they are emotionally engaged in the fight. And what it will cause is them to trigger the weapon much longer compared, or you know, also just a bit longer compared to what the behavior is asking. So being bad at preserving their ammo means they will also run out of bullets much quicker. So this offers interesting opportunities for players because they can now shoot at them while they reload or while they scavenge the environment. So traits are building blocks we can use to define how character, faction, or encounter should feel. And designer can now create a wide variety of encounters for you guys to enjoy the game.
Yeah, I hate the idea of an infinite ammo AI, but I guess like it could make sense if you were, say, if there was like a set mission where you have to go down a corridor with snipers or something, and the snipers should always be able to shoot people. That just reminds me of Halo 2 Jackals, to be honest. We talked about the shooter token system before, and that's like a group of people can get a certain amount of tokens, and if they run out, then they stop shooting kind of thing. So I'm interested in seeing how this does affect our combat encounters right now, because they're pretty straightforward for the most part. You're just kind of, everybody just walks around and shoots at you. Nobody really like bum rushes you just yet.
So I want to paint a picture for you guys. So this is the bunker mission in Pyro, right? And we have a set of enemies that are defending the environment. So this is imagine an infiltrate and destroy mission. Those guys are there defending the bunker. You need to take it over. You need to basically kill them all. You are now fighting against enemies that they defend the environment. So before we go to the next slide, imagine the same environment, very similar enemies, but different traits, same behavior. So now you are defending an environment, and they are aggressive towards the environment. They want to take it. So what you will see here is that created a mix of enemies, some equipped with, for example, shotgun and aggressive traits. Now they will push towards you. They will force you to take actions and to react to them. There we
That
go.
guy's gonna get shot so fast.
Some will cover up. Obviously.
What they should be doing here is showing us what it looks like when the AI aren't using their traits, and then when they are, I think that would give a little bit better representation of this.
This is with God mode on, so Zach was not dying. So this is possible to set up with a tick of a box. But this is not just enemies, because in Star Citizen, we want you to hire your own crew members. And those crew members, those characters, will have different personalities, different traits, different training level that they can build up. But when you look at their traits, we want you to see their strengths and their weaknesses so that you can pick the one that either match your playstyle or compensate your playstyle. So one good thing that we want to show you today is the medic. So there are some NPCs that can carry, obviously, med pants, but not everybody is able to use it well or wants to use it in a specific encounter. So we want to tweak this, and we have the medic trait. Here we combine a lot of the tech that we have spoken in the past, usable tech, behavior tech. And as Jens showed you, players now can just not only kill enemies, because before our NPCs would just die, but now you can take them down, you can restrain them. So the eye perception needs to carry all this information about the different actor states. So it needs to know if he's down, but if he's still alive, or if it's just, somebody that you need to wake up. So a medic in the regular combat flow can, when it's safe to do so, and at the right time, attempt to heal is made that can be helped. So now you can imagine guard patrolling the environment, you take down a character, the guard...
All right, real quick, guys, just to give some clarity. Here are the, you guys have been putting in tickets. You can see them here. So if you look at the, this is again, these are all for, I'm sorry, these are for the channel points you make from Stream Elements, not from Twitch itself. But you can find your name on here if you have put in a ticket. And if you try to do one or the other, or however many you do, you will be able to see it pop up on this screen. Freaking Maverick with... Maverick has a lot of points. But you can go ahead and screenshot this to just make sure your name is on there or not.
Finds this body on the ground. He doesn't know if he's alive or not. So he can go there, he can check it, check the pulse, see the state, and if he can be helped, he can basically execute the right healing process. If he needs a med pen, he will use the med pen. If he needs to shake him to wake him up, he will shake him up. And if he needs to unrestrain him, he will unrestrain him. And your crew members can also do the same with you. So if you are down in critical condition, they can come and help you out. We'll see now an example of this, where two factions are fighting. And you will see that at the right time, when the guy retreats, this guy can go there and heal his mate.
He gets so hyped here.
And obviously, he needs to pick up a new weapon because he just dropped it. So as we mentioned before, and as you've seen here, NPC can run out of bullets, but can also lose their weapons. So what we have to do right now is that, first of all, we want NPCs to have a concrete ammo pool to use. We don't want infinite ammos anymore. So the ammo pool is actually constructed by the ammos the NPC carry in their weapons, the one that they carry, the one that might have, and all the magazines they carry. They don't have any more bullets out of that. So NPC must properly use those items to fight. And the longer the engagement, the more likely it is they will run out of bullets and they will have to scavenge the environment. How do they do that? It's through the NPC, the usable system, as you've seen with Ines as well, Ines' presentation. You see that anything the player can interact with, the NPCs actually can, the same exact way. So the dead bodies can be looted, same as dropped weapons. Ammo crates will have physically inside some weapons, magazines. They can provide you with items. And the NPC can understand where you can find ammos that are actually functioning with their own weapons. And they actually can decide. For example, if it's better to reach an ammo crate and gather some new ammos, or if that is too far or towards the enemy, they can decide to pick up another weapon. So you will see that also already in Pyro, you might see it. And once they decide to do so, obviously they don't have bullets, so they cannot fight you. What they can do, they can also switch to their sidearms. And the sidearms is less effective, obviously, compared to the primary weapon, but it is still better than nothing for them to protect themselves while they go around and they loot the environment.
I think in terms of crew, he's talking about just like members that you're fighting alongside, so like friendly NPCs, FPS NPCs.
So we'll see here an example where some NPC run out of bullets. Obviously, in this video, we give them a chance to go and loot as well. And this is a proper ammo crate that allows them to get back magazines. And another NPC arrives, and he will loot the dead body. This is the same dead body you might be able to loot, and you will not find ammos after that. But you will probably find it in the other one once you kill it. So, last but not least, another tool in the FPS arsenal is grenades. Grenades are a great tool. NPC can now fully react and use grenades in the environment. So grenades are a great tool, especially when an NPC needs to counter a player that is camping or a player that is hiding or say in a location that the NPC cannot reach. So grenade force the movement and keep the action going, but they're also very dangerous. You've seen in Ali's presentation and my presentation that a grenade can make electronics explode ignite a fire, and then the fire can propagate in the environment. So NPCs needs to properly understand the environment and not jump into the fire and get damaged. So how do we do that? Is we have a new full system to handle hazards. Basically, a hazard on the technical side can create a navigation volume modifier, and the navigation volume modifier gets registered in navigation system, and our basically mesh can be modified, and it will carry semantic about if that is a dangerous, something better, and how much costly it is to go through.
We literally just talked about this in the monthly report that was released last week. They were talking about this in the AI section.
Because maybe you have a suit that allows you to go through the fire, so that is fine. You will not, the NPC can understand that. But if they can't, they will try to find positions that are safe for them to position themselves, but also paths that will avoid those dangerous areas. And now we'll see an example of that. This is a safe environment, still fighting, but safe, safer. And what will happen now? Fire ignites and propagates. This is fully dynamic, so it's fully controlled by the fire system. The fire system modifies volumes in the navigation system, and we really know where we can and not pass at any given moment. So this is a subset of the things that we worked on and we wanted to show you today. Thanks very much for listening, and now back to Jens.
That is a lot of stuff that we have seen in the past with them working on. Here's a look at them doing the AI checking on downed state NPCs. This was back in 2022. We also had, let's see, like I showed just last week, we had that video clip of them doing basically what he just said, which is trying to avoid certain areas if they have more danger involved. Can't find that one right now. Oh, it's somewhere around here. Nope. I think this one is lost in the wind. We just looked at that clip. Where the heck is it? We just watched this last week. Here we are.
We will show how the characters can navigate through the environment, with fire, with dynamic fire. And this, like design space, you don't have to set up anything because players can turn, fire everywhere, or NPCs could do it as well. Something can go wrong, right, and explode them.
Right.
And it could be more fire.
And so the idea here is that with the different archetypes for the AI, you can have an AI that's incredibly cautious, and they would carefully avoid all of the different hazards.
So yeah, and like has been saying in chat, they do some of this stuff. So I do feel like some of this has been implemented. I'm not sure what of this. Maybe it's just the traits that will be being tested this week. Maybe it's more. I don't know. But we can also check out here that they have been talking about the nav mesh and how that's supposed to factor into the new planet tech that they're using. So let's take a look at this as well.
Lives. And then day and night.
Also, guys, can you please stop arguing on YouTube? Just let it go. Thank you.
Cycle. So in essence, the passage of time that so far didn't have really a lot of impact on the gameplay. So to allow life to respect this world and conform to the rules that this environment defines, well, we want to improve our tools and workflow, and we want to distance ourselves as much as possible from a designer-driven approach. This is because, first, it's labor-intensive. It can be prone to bugs, but also because the scale of the words that we've just seen are very hard to be, designer-driven in the markup. So we want to improve this workflow, and we will see how manual markup is also not usually the best option, because with these words that are heavily impacted by users and changes and customization, it's very hard to know in advance where interesting things are. So today I want to show you a couple of examples of what the IT team has been focusing on to make these systems supported and scale correctly to support these vastly dense dynamic worlds. So we'll look at perception in light and dark environments and dynamic cover generation. So attacking an outpost now must have a level of depth that goes beyond what we had. So layouts of the environment can change, vehicles may or may not be present, and PC can be anywhere. And if it's a bright day, well, we will be more visible, but our enemies will also be more visible. And if you choose to attack at nighttime, well, we'll attack in shadows. During darkness, it's going to be a bit harder to see our enemies, but we will also be harder to be spotted. And it will give us more opportunities to be stealthy and sneaky. How do we do that? So as you see, there is also a lot of different light conditions in this outpost. So in this scenario, we will start look at how perception is impacted by the day and night cycle. On the planetary surface, as we've seen in the outpost, natural and artificial lights are the two elements that will impact vision. And knowing that, you can use this to leverage your gameplay style to exploit basically all the environment. So what is perception? On NPC level is the combination of data that we collect out of the senses. And vision is one of the senses and just tries to, in a way, simulates the human side ability. So designers can already tweak the perception in different ways. And one way is defining how quickly NPCs can understand what they're seeing.
I just gotta say, can you imagine the testing of this specific part of this? Like, imagine going in the EPTU and needing to get actual feedback on how this works. So you basically just like storm a base, kill all the NPCs, see how they react, and then just sit outside, wait for it to get dark. Like 30 minutes go by. Okay, sun's down. Let's try this again. You do it again. There's one data set. I hope there is an easy way to test this for the players, but I'm thinking it's just going to be kind of like whatever you see, you get some feedback on, and trying to test exactly the same scenario in day and night is going to be difficult in the PTU.
Conditions have a direct impact how quickly an NPC will fully understand, for example, if there is an hostile in front of them. And obviously, there is condition of light that designers can control, and some others, like the day-night cycle, that they can't.
You can go to the other side of the planet, but I mean, obviously, when you test something, you really want to try and get a one-for-one representation of what you're testing. Like the exact same scenario is the best way to test that stuff.
So in this video, we'll see two main elements. The graph on the top left and the two colorful cones. The graph on the left basically represents the current light level the NPC is in and the current multiplier this light level generates to speed up or slow down the NPC perception and understanding. The two cones instead represents the primary and secondary FOV. The red color means that if you stand in that location, it will result in NPC reacting the slowest to you, and the green color instead represents the quickest response. So during the night, NPC will have a hard time to understand and foresee and see things, but if they have flashlights on their helmets, they can turn it on, and this will impact their primary FOV, making still the peripheral vision a bit more uncertain. And as you see here, first of all, the NPC is patrolling with his domesticated friendly Copion. This is because he wants to exploit the vision, the night vision capabilities of the animal, and it's kind of our tier 0 pets. So we'll now look at the cover system. That is the next dynamic things that I want to show you. So when we introduced planetary navigation mesh the first time, I
feel like the Copion did have its own field of view there. I could have sworn I remembered that being part of this demonstration.
So we'll now look at the cover system. That is the next dynamic things that I want to show you. So when we introduced planetary navigation mesh the first time, our goal was really to create a systems that would support and process the environment in a very dynamic way. Our planets are just way too big to statically export them and process them, first of all. And then their regions only exist when somebody's there and the NPCs are there. So essentially, environment has its purpose only when life exists. Also, let's keep in mind that even if we could export dynamically and statically those planets, so processing dynamically all a static version of the planet, this would be, first of all, wasteful and on the memory side and time-consuming. And also because we have a lot of runtime modification of the terrain, this would require us to still reparse it at runtime, and pretty much that will be almost all the time. So to generate the cover data, we want to leverage the navigation mesh system. And what we do is, as you see here, the blue polygons are basically where NPCs can walk, and the green ones are what we call cover surfaces, that are our simple representation of the environment, what NPC uses to understand if they can hide behind something and if they can shoot from some positions. So up to now, we have had an approach where designer would be a designer-driven approach. Designer can define in the locations where cover was interesting. They could mark it up, either the location itself or prefabs, and then with a special entity that would just sample dynamically the environment, but would still be designer-driven. This is obviously a good approach it's also a standard approach in gaming industry, but what about all those organic and inorganic elements that get scattered with a new system? Like if designers want to iterate on these ones, for example, and they want to change the physical data sets, those scattering tools will just change completely the layout. And what we want is that designers can do this change without being afraid of doing it because the gameplay was, predefined and controlled. And now they can just make something beautiful, but also fun.
So in that case, this might not be something that they're looking to test with the EPTU this week because we don't have the new scattering tool or the new Planet Tech version unless they put that in the EPT. No, I'm kidding. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Besides that, yes, we did have a prefab approach where you can build stuff out of small building blocks. This is obviously a good approach because it's, in a way, you can build stuff out of smaller version, but this creates a lot of unnecessary data. Imagine a crate, and we can say that the crate can generate cover. Now we stack 100 crates, and what happens? That we have a lot of data to generate cover that we have to process, throw away. This would just waste CPU cycles for nothing. This is why, until now, you also couldn't find an NPC in a forest like this one and see them hiding behind a tree or a rock. So enabling the dynamic generation of covers on the planet allows us to exploit all the elements of the environment. Whenever navigation mesh generates, NPC can now have a chance to fight with you.
Okay, this is kind of hilarious. Watch this Ursa here, and tell me if it looks like it's driving or just kind of sliding across the ground slightly sideways.
Hiding behind available elements. Boulders, rock, walls, and are all useful elements right now. However, we don't have to limit ourselves to static geometries, but also vehicles can be used for cover. And as you can see, this is dynamically generating while the vehicle moves. So be careful where you park your Ursa, because now it can become a source of danger for you as well. Last but not least, these systems can be just used on all the different type of navigation mesh we have, so not on the planet, but also, for example, the interiors and everything you guys construct. Because obviously, you guys will build your own locations, but you don't really mark up stuff, or you don't want to decide that, because that's going to come automatically out of the system. So I want to show you So what I want to show you now is just like a little bit of insight of what goes behind the scene when we generate cover and navigation mesh. These are some of the steps that our system does. So we always start from the environment voxelization. What that means is we process the geometry, the physical representation of the geometries, that is a little bit simpler than usually the render mesh, and we construct it in a voxelized approach. This is also using different types of agent definition. Why so? Because obviously where a human can move is not the same as where a vehicle can move. So we can define different type of precisions and then speeding up the process where we have to, and be more precise where we cannot be to. And we can also create overrides based on different things. For example, if you crouch, you can enter into smaller locations than where you stand. This process is basically common between navigation mesh and cover. After that is generated, then we can evaluate the voxel in different ways. For example, defining where we can walk. So can we make the step with our foot over a specific voxel? Or is there something in front of that hole in the nav mesh so that we can actually cover behind? And then we can basically decide where to generate cover surfaces.
Zolox, first off, thank you for the sub, man. Appreciate you 3 months on Twitch, supporting the stream. keeping the asparagus away from the tomato farm. Also, though, it said only thing I see being explained here is 20 different ways my CPU can explode. That's the goal. CIG is secretly working for Intel and AMD.
And after the cover surfaces are generated, we can process where the cover locations are. Cover locations are a good spot for MPC to be behind the cover. So what we see here is that with the introduction of Maelstrom last year, obviously we knew this would revolutionize how you guys are playing. And we did have to find a solution to handle all the destruction you get here. So
Whoa, that's loud.
That we had to find a solution, right? So this is why we approach the cover generation navigation mesh as it is, because there is just no way for us to predict anything that you're doing, and we want just Maelstrom to be another trigger for word evaluation.
Dude, this is gonna be so freaking crazy. Testing this is gonna be hilarious.
Dynamically generating and destroying anything just makes the war be reevaluated. So, as you see here, we can have also lots of rules. So you can see that here. But when things break, first they invalidate, and then when they rest, for example, we can decide when is a good moment to regenerate, so that we also don't waste too much CPU cycles. The color that you see is mostly cover quality. So you see the light green is high cover, the dark green is low cover, and then we have the red that we introduced some time ago that is basically not really good cover, but if there is nothing better, well, it's better to be behind something than being, in open space. So let's just recap. What we want to do is finding a plan and having a good plan to approach life in this vast universe. What we want is the life to be able to systemically evaluate all the dynamic environments that is generated. We want to improve our workflow, not only to support designers and being faster, but also support all your guys' creations. So we want the life to adapt, and this is all for making the game fun for you, so that everything comes together. So thank you all. This was phase 3. And now, let's welcome Ben Parry, that will introduce you guys to phase 4 of Genesis.
So he's kind of phrasing that as a part of Genesis, which is the Planet Tech. So there's like crossover here with the different features, and I'm not sure which part of this, if any parts of this, are going to be these AI improvements they're talking about for the EPTU this week. But I wanted to give you at least a look into what they have recently been talking about when it comes to AI advancements, how they fit into the systems that they're currently building, like Planet Tech, Maelstrom, and other things. I personally don't think Planet Tech or Maelstrom are going to be in the EPTU anytime immediately soon. We don't know what's planned for that last quarter of the year, but hopefully this gives you a little bit more insight into what their plans are, and I think helps to compare the current AI to what we've seen today, which I think has a little bit of crossover, but might not perform quite as well as what they're hoping to show here. Anyways, AI. Hopefully, do we even talk about Maelstrom? I haven't talked about Maelstrom in a while. Obviously, it's an interesting topic given the background of Battlefield 6 coming back in, and that game is well known for its destructible environments, but dude, Maelstrom's crazy. I genuinely do not know how they're going to pull that off when it comes to, like Vastin said, and like, who's that was mentioning the bombs, the A2 bombs. Zolox, was that you? The idea that, yeah, once people dropping bombs on places, it's going to be wild, dude. What are they going to do? You're going to have like NPC base building ships come in and procedurally rebuild these locations over time. And then we get contracts to kill those NPCs because we're hired by the opposing faction who knows they're trying to build new bases. I don't know, man. You could base an entire game off of just that game loop. Our enemies are building bases on this moon. Go destroy them and then call on the reinforcements to stop them from rebuilding. We need to keep mining the Hephaestonite from underground and building our honeycomb reserves so that they can't steal our honey. I have no idea why it would have anything to do with honey, but it's an interesting idea for a game like this. possibly maybe a little bit too much for a game like this, but we'll see how that works out for them. What conspiracy theories are we looking at today? Lizard lasers. I found the #1 lizard laser in Star Citizen. Just put like a little lizard person up here instead of this space station. It was Hathor that set Hawaii on fire. Pioneer contracts to rebuild outposts. Now that'd be cool. That'd be pretty sick. It'll be Sadabald. Dude, no, there's too much effort going into Maelstrom for them to just drop it. I think if anything, it'll be scaled back, but I can't imagine they would just remove it. What you don't understand is how they're going to pay the server bills with the current monetization models long term. Yeah, it's because they're going to have other monetization models long term. I do really think that they're going to try and hook some additional benefits into their optional sub. I think they probably want to try and get a lot of people on the optional sub at some point. But also, if they're able to pull off here's the big thing that doesn't really get talked about. If you go to the Star Citizen 1.0 section and you look at their cards, there's one specific card here that I think could make all the difference to this game. Well, besides player space stations, I do think that's a big one. But I am looking for this one. Building interiors. Let me show you what they show to us for building interiors. I'm not convinced that they're still going in this direction for it and that they're going to do this entirely the way that they've presented it here.
This week,
look at how much a building interior was supposed to have historically.
How can we start to break that down? So right off the bat on the top, it's the rooftop spaces. So these would be the primary access points for the player. Then just below that, the maintenance spaces, these could be industrial or technical. Also, we can have residential. So residential could be entire building blocks, so it could be a proportion. Then after that, we've got commercial. So these could be shopping, it could be offices, it could be social. And then at the bottom, obviously, we've got lobbies. Now, these also could be access points for the player. For example, if you're inside Area 18, the player can get access to it there. And then lastly, we've got the underground. Now, these could be interesting as a connector space between buildings. So maybe you've gone in through one building, you go down.
All right, underground's actually, I think, similar to what we're seeing put into 4.3, but residential is the big one. Look at this.
And a potential here.
And just like, imagine how, if they just had a team that just worked on this initiative, imagine how much money they could make from this if they monetized it. Not just from selling you space for residential locations on any planet whatsoever or any space station somewhere. Obviously, that's something that you would be able to earn in game. But imagine the amount of people who would just spend cash to get an apartment somewhere. But also imagine the cosmetics and the customization of apartments in this game. Yeah, thank God we're only imagining it. I mean, again, this is probably, it sounds either very good or very bad or middle of the park to you. I'm not saying this is good or bad, but the potential of monetization in this game when it comes to cosmetics is kind of wild.
What we wanted to do with residential is two things. One, explore investigating the potential player housing. So with that, we want to be able to create a variety of interior layouts. And also we want to explore a variety of architectural styles. So when we're looking at potential housing layouts, we wanted something fairly modular in a way in which we could create a variety of combinations. So whether it's living spaces or habitation spaces or social spaces. And also here we're looking at, we want the players to eventually be able to populate the player-owned habitation. So you see here.
Play my piano, boy.
Like a first indication.
Sorry, Mrs. Tomato started Red Dead Redemption 2 again last night. So.
Of how, the sort of dressing styles that you'd be able to do. Outside of something that's fairly utilitarian, we also want to do something that could be fairly high end. So here we're just
This one gives me such Oblivion vibes.
exploring some ideas about what a space could feel like on a different architectural style, and more generous windows, you know, interior spaces dedicated to more than just habitation. And these would be focused on other landing zones. So imagine you come across these in Area 18, or it could be when we come to Terra. And also, like I said, it could be informing future.
This is like the starting location of a cyberpunk game. It's your starting hab in ArcCorp, you know?
Player-owned habitation architectural sets. Now, outside of the living quarters, there's also the social spaces just outside. And we want these to be more than just the corridors that we're seeing in the game right now. So these could be...
There's your Deus Ex apartment. They hit all the archetypes in this video.
Multi-layered social spaces. And these could also inform...
That's literally Adam Jensen right there. Get out of here.
Advanced traversal routes for the player to be able to get inside these habitation rooms. So as we're talking through various architectural styles, what you're seeing here is just a collection of ideas, a collection of architectural intent to create like a palette or a mood that will inform art style and gameplay opportunities. So outside of residential, we're moving
Feels good,
into
man. That would be sick. That'd be dope. And there's also like obviously the potential
bar?
of this kind of stuff.
Bars.
A bar at the top of a Hurston Dynamics building looking over the city. Like these sorts of things I think could really get people excited to open their wallets. And then we go to CitizenCon last year. And you look at stuff like this.
That once these things are set up, it's not a case of just free resources forever on key
The
structures
cosmetics
like
that you
this,
could
there
have
are
involved in
fuses
base
which
building.
placed, as well
I
as
don't know
environmental
how, like I hope they don't sell base building modules themselves, but they do definitely hint at decorating your own bases. Where is it that they talked about that? Thought that was in this video. Whatever it is that they do with base building, I think they'll probably find a way to monetize that as well. Was it in this one? No, it must have been the 1.0.
Talked about.
It was somewhere around these parts. Oh, they definitely mentioned it here with the space station building.
Customization is just as important as expansion. Similar to ground bases, you'll be able to earn tints for your station, and you'll be able to apply decals for your
earn with
wall
dollars.
logos.
So there's cosmetics potential. They're going to have to expand on it, but that along with still selling ships of some sorts in some ways, of optional subs, there are some different routes they can go. I'm just not sure what will or will not work with them. All right, let's talk about the next topic for the day. StratCat actually brought it up right on time. Community happiness. This is really kind of about success. This is something that we went over last week on the Monday stream, I think it was. But I realized that I completely botched my reading of the numbers and got that really wrong, which pointed out to me very quickly. And so I took that video down and I wanted to redo that segment today with you guys. So let's talk about the success of this game this year. Is it successful? Why is it successful? What determines success? Is the community even happy with it? And what are they giving up for that success? Starting out, we're gonna look at the CCU game channel. And I'm not gonna get this wrong this time, okay? Last time I did this, I was not reading the numbers correctly. Now, looking at the income view of these years, obviously there were some big explosions around the pandemic time, and we could all obviously acknowledge that a lot of people started to live inside a little bit more during the pandemic. What? Crazy. Yeah, so obviously 2020 was the first big year where they broke over 50 million, and they kind of blew past 50 million to 78 million in the year. But since then, it has still grown. It has grown pretty consistently. 2024 was actually the first year of a decrease since 2017, and it dropped down about 1%. But if you look at how they're doing this year, in their defense, well, not really in defense, this is more kind of just an explanation of why. This year they have sold like, I want to say either around 10 to 12 vehicles so far. You could go back in there. Oh, actually, we can go back in. My man Colonial Movers puts out some great posts. We'll have to see if he has done a new one recently. No, the last one he put out was 3 months ago. What? Qubit? Dude, just dropped 10 more subs on Twitch, man? Thank you so much, buddy. What a homie over here. Closing out the Turkish streams with the beautiful support from Twitch. Guys, you still have a giveaway going on over there on Twitch. Make sure to get entered in on that if you haven't. And for the whole stream, you can still win a RSI Meteor. That's not being given away today, but you can still get entered into it. So we haven't gotten a new version of this just yet, so it's a little bit out of date, but you can see the way that they have introduced ships in this game. It's not like they've exploded the amount of ships that they're getting out this year. They're hitting a lot of variants of previous ships, so the Asgard, the Guardian MX, the Hornet Mark II. We've seen the Meteor come in, the Prowler, and a couple others. Atlas Geo is, I guess, kind of a variant, but not exactly. They're not doing concept sales as much anymore. That was really what rubbed people the wrong way back in the day. They would release a whole, I mean, you can see how many of these red names here still haven't released, especially all the way back in 2013. The Merchantman and the Orion still haven't released. And those bugged people. Now it's more kind of that they're releasing a lot of games, a lot of ships straight into the game, and not necessarily taking that backlog out of the picture. Now we're looking at the Apollo coming in this year. The Perseus is probably coming this year. The Ironclad's not coming this year, but it's getting pretty close. The Paladin might be coming this year. So they are still chipping away at the backlog. They released the Idris this year. And don't think there was anything else too significant on here that's come out. But overall, concept sales made people less exciting because you were just getting a picture. Not a JPEG, a PNG. Well, now you're getting a freaking WebP, which is awful, so annoying. I hate that file type. But you can see that releasing straight to flyable ships has been keeping their numbers up big time this year. And I say that because I do think that there are less people playing than there were, say, in 2023 or 2022. 2022 was an explosion in popularity because we saw big creators like Jack Frags cover the game quite extensively. A lot of people saw the game for the first time. Some of the big streamers were checking out the game, and that kept their numbers up. 2023 was kind of more of the same, a little bit of like residual. It was also the game, I think this was pre 3.18. 3.18 came out, no, March 10th of 2023. So actually, it's kind of surprising that they kept the funding up so well in 2023. 2024, a little bit of a dip. And I do think a lot of that had to do with the wait for server meshing, which kind of screwed them over. But 2025 was, I think, a year that was not going to go as well if they weren't releasing as much stuff. And I think they knew that. And they predicted that. They saw that coming and decided to put more ships out. A lot of people are like, oh, they're releasing ships just to make more money. Yeah, they are. We read it from Ali Brown earlier today. Their main goal this year was engagement. We read it from Chris Roberts' letter from the chairman. He wanted to keep people playing through improvements in playability. A lot of that comes down to content, and a lot of that content ends up kind of being broken, which is obviously frustrating, but it has kept people engaged and spending more money. Now, if we go to the Citizen page, we can see that the numbers are not quite as mind-blowingly higher than they were last year. It's still doing better. They caught up a bit here in April for sure, and then they caught up a bit here in June, and they did pretty well in July as well. But it's good to note that, like, the numbers of people coming in or the numbers of accounts being made don't necessarily mean the population is growing. It could mean that people are spending more accounts on referral rewards and stuff like that. But that is true every year. So it's kind of, you can eliminate that part of the numbers. Ultimately, though, they are doing better in terms of bringing people in. And I think that does show that the content being released is at least getting people interested, if not keeping them around. And the most important thing that I think CIG probably wants to do right now is get people interested, get them to at least spend a little bit of money, and keep Star Citizen kind of just chugging. Like, they're focused on Squadron 42. We can go back to Star Citizen's financials. I can't spell. That was terrible spelling. And scroll down to that lovely section, that lovely message that they put. I'm making a whole video about this one right now. Where was it? To find it, all you have to do is search for the word hitherto. Because who uses this word? Oh, god dang it. They used it 3 times? Who writes this? How often do you guys use the word hitherto? That's wild, man. 3 times in one document? Okay, reading this paragraph, this is kind of a big tell. As set out in my last report, we also made the decision at the start of 2023 that we needed to dedicate and ring-fence more resources for our Squadron 42 game in order to get the game to feature complete by the end of the year. So that Chris could say that at CitizenCon. Again, a significant step on its roadmap to full commercial release. Hitherto, it was all too easy to divert resources earmarked for Squadron onto Star Citizen to tackle live issues raised by our noisy, annoying, and terrible f***ing customers. No, I'm kidding. It doesn't say that. It just called you customers. It's a term of endearment. And community, stemming from our latest releases. But this was at the expense of the Squadron development plan. So although an expensive commitment, the decision was taken to devote these planned and required resources to Squadron 42 in the interest of making solid progress towards our ultimate goals. Their ultimate goal, Squadron 42. I saw a post on the Reddit yesterday, and somebody was like, okay, they're adding stuff to Star Citizen, but it really just kind of feels like it's stuff to just play right now. And it's like, yeah, because they're focused on Squadron. They need to get that game out next year. And I'm willing to bet that they will sacrifice anything they need to in Star Citizen's development to make sure that game releases in 2026. And if it doesn't, oh my gosh, that's not a good sign. So it is pretty obvious that, like, this year, their goal is just to fill the game with content and enough stability and performance improvements that it doesn't feel awful to play. And I know a lot of this stuff that you've seen this year has felt awful to play, but that doesn't change the fact that they are succeeding at what they're doing. They are getting enough people to play this game and continue to come check back every month and spend money. And oh my god, guys, if you don't think that they're about to have a record-breaking August, let's just look at how much money they normally make in August, because by the end of this month, they made $5 million in 2022. They made $5 million in 2020. Last year, they made $3 million. This year in August, if they release that, what's it called? The Kruger Intergalactic Wolf. that thing's gonna sell. I think they'll probably aim for like an $80, somewhere around $80 price range for that ship, judging by just the competition and what it's up against as a light fighter. Maybe 90, but I'm thinking 80 would probably be a better spot for them. And I think that's gonna lead them to a record-breaking August, and then they're gonna probably release something fairly interesting in, how much is the Gladius? Oh, the Gladius is 110? Oh yeah, I'm way off. I thought the Gladius was like 90 bucks, dude. What? Wait a second. I'm sorry. I'm so far off. Let me see. Show me small combat ships. All right, so Arrow is 75. Gladius is 90. Yeah, the Gladius is 90 bucks. So I'm thinking they're probably going to aim around there. This thing is probably going up against the Arrow and Gladius. I'm guessing $80 to $90. The Valiant's 110. Okay, yeah. Yeah. $180 for a light fighter? Oh my God. Does it come with a phone call from Chris Roberts? That would be a lot. Yeah, I'm thinking 90 bucks maybe. Either way, whatever price they go for it, it's going to be a successful release, because look at the look of that ship. When it comes down to balance, nobody actually cares about that right now. It's going to probably release being better than it's supposed to be. It'll get balanced down at some point, and then it'll get matched up against the Arrow and the Gladius, and it should be something that's worth fighting in at a time. But that's besides the point. They're going to make a lot of money this year. And that's because they have done what they tried to do, which is keep the game somewhat stable. We're playing in bigger shards. Our server and client-side frame rates are better than they were before this year, before server meshing. There's actual content that people can do. There's actual stuff to earn in the game. I know it's kind of painful, but literally before this year, you basically couldn't set out into the game with the goal of earning stuff. You would just make money and then spend that money on ships and then use those ships to make more money and then eventually give that money to somebody else who's begging in global chat. It's kind of just the way that it was. So they're building more progress in it. For those who aren't obsessed with this game and following it and in these live chats with me, the casual normal player, you're getting to jump in and actually try something that you feel like you're at least progressing in. But that success is kind of coming at a cost. I run a poll every month, and I started it last October. We went over this last week. I know you might remember this. A little deja vu. But if you go all the way back and you look at the way that the numbers have been folding out, it's spastic, okay? The Star Citizen community is very ready to answer a question about how they feel about this game based on what happened in like the last 5 days. So it can be a little bit difficult to take these polls completely as a sign of what the community is thinking, but we can still kind of see the trends. If you look at the first one I ran, this is 10 months ago. Once we hit 12 months, I'll probably make a video about this. But the first one I ran had 8% of people saying they were very satisfied and 22% of people saying they were not happy. Now, this might be an anomaly because of the way that I asked it. I said a very satisfied instead of just saying happy. But if you, this is not a 2-person, 200-person poll. This is 4.7 thousand people. You're reading 250 comments. But if you move forward in it from 8% versus 22%, the next one landed at, gosh, it's up here, 11% versus 22%. So mostly the same. 6.7 thousand votes. Continuing on to the next month, 14% versus 17%. So actually, towards the end of the year, you were getting more people saying they were happy than unhappy, and it was slowly starting to even out. But again, this changes so drastically based on like literally the time of month. If a patch comes out and it's broken, it can completely change the numbers. The next one had it drop. 10% were saying they were happy, 23% were saying they were unhappy. This I'm coasting and following along is always over 50%. This is just people mostly are neutral, which is what I would expect. The next one did not get as many votes, only 2.7 thousand, 10%, 22%. After that, 3.7 thousand, 18%, 70%. This is the first time that the people who were happy outnumbered the people who were unhappy. And again, maybe that was because of the patch that came out. This was, it doesn't tell me dates exactly, so I don't know exactly when that might have been. But something good must have been happening. Keep them going forward. Now the numbers have completely flipped. 21% of people saying they're happy versus 12 saying they are unhappy. 4.3 thousand votes. That's 3 months ago. 2 months ago, 23% of people saying they were happy, 19% saying they were unhappy. So those numbers, people dropped in terms of their neutrality. And you started to see both of those numbers get fairly high. Most recently, or rather this is June, I believe, 16% said they were happy, 17% said they were unhappy. So we're still seeing more people say they're happy than were at the end of last year. But the unhappiness is still higher at that point. But the most recent one, 2 weeks ago, and like I said, this gets changed based on what's actively happening in the game. 2 weeks ago, only 9% of answerers said they were happy. 32%. 32% of people said they were unhappy. So that's like a really big swing. And I think it's going to be telling what the answers are this month, because now this event, which a lot of people view as being broken, has had more time to sit. I'm going to be really interested in seeing where this number is in August when I give this poll. And I have the graph here. It's not a pretty graph, okay? Get off my back. But you can see the numbers are relatively even in unhappiness and happiness. Obviously around the second quarter of this year, more people were happy than unhappy at some points, but then a pretty big divergence recently. Obviously, the coasting votes have been dropping over time. So like more people are becoming not as neutral. And I don't know, I think this is interesting data. I need to double check this and go through it a couple times and make sure it's all really accurate and stuff. But just judging by the trends, it's not like they've ruined themselves. You know, as much as you might think when you see people giving feedback on how the game is performing this year, it's really up and down. And it's super dependent on short-term memory. I think that's good to keep in mind that like almost not all of the feedback that we see about this stuff, we're just really hyper engaged. And that's probably true for any video game that's a live service that's getting a lot of updates. I mean, a new update every month is going to change people's perception a lot, but a lot of the things that you hear people say about this are based, I think, overwhelmingly on short-term memory. It's very easy to forget that we were playing in 100 people servers last year and the NPCs wouldn't even interact with you. Or that, like I was saying earlier, you couldn't progress towards stuff in the game. It ends up kind of getting lost in the noise, and I think that's what CIG is banking on overall, is just that like if they do reach their goals and they get the game into the state they want it to be in by next year, especially by the time that like Squadron 42 comes out, if the game is performing fairly well and they have been able to launch important features like base building, crafting, scanning and radar, maybe even another star system, CIG is just like, you know what? Hell, we made our money, right? We got a good amount of people still signing up in this year where really we're focusing mainly on Squadron 42. And now we have a great single player game to release and a pretty solid in development MMO. That's like best case scenario. I'm not saying that Squadron 42 is going to be great. That's the jury's still out on that one. But if Squadron 42 is good and they are able to keep this momentum going, they are looking at a pretty successful 2025, as long as things are looking good going into 2026. There's a lot that could go wrong. There also seems to be a lot that could go right. And I don't know, everybody has a different definition of what success is going to mean for Star Citizen this year. But I do think that it's worth noting that whatever it is they want to do, they're making that money and they're growing their numbers. And the one thing we don't really know is how Squadron 42 is doing. Now, I don't think they've put out This Week in Star Citizen yet, but the fact that they're about to start testing the EPTU finally, bringing in Vulkan, talking about possibly engineering coming in, could mean that they're starting to turn more towards features. And if they're able to get to the point that they're at right now, and then turn back to feature development for this last quarter of the year, they're gonna have a good year on their hands. It's kind of like, I think it was 2023. I don't know if this is reflected in the numbers, but in 2023, things were feeling kind of slow because of all the sort of just difficulties that they were facing until they dropped CitizenCon in October, which, yeah, it looks like that is reflected in the numbers. Look at the 2022 October was $8 million. 2023 October was almost 100% increase on top of that, 87.5% increase. November of 2022, 23 million. November of 2023, 23% increase. So like you can see that at the end of 2023, things ballooned because people got good news from the CitizenCon and all that stuff. That same thing could happen this year. They've already been doing pretty well this year, but they could end up having saved a lot of feature development, a lot of news, and a lot of advancements for this last 4 months of the year. And they could be looking at, man, I don't even know, $130 million in revenue this year. Plus, I don't know, 50,000? No, that's 500,000 new accounts made. 520,000 new accounts made, maybe. So yeah. You don't think the features are being delayed for playability? They just knew the features wouldn't be ready? Yeah, I think it's a mixture. I think it's a bit of a mixture of they don't have the tech capabilities to launch stuff. Like they needed to get Vulkan done. Like you said, they're not ready. But I think there are also some things that they're trying to hold back because they realize they're just not stable enough. Like the ladder improvements, for instance, they might have dropped that in back in previous years. Just kind of half working. They've had a history of features that half worked when they brought it in. Oh. Freight elevators, you say? Freight elevators, I barely heard her. Or met her, whatever the joke is. So yeah. Is it a successful year for them? I'm not going to tell you whether it has been or not, but I'm hoping that giving you some of these numbers and a little insight into what I've been tracking over the last year might explain or might shed some light on it. And we'll touch back in on this graph. I mean, we kind of look at it every month here on the stream, but I'll be making a video about this sometime in the next few months as we get to that 12-month period, because I think it's pretty interesting to look at. Either way, there's a little news drop on that. All right. I am going to skip the core gameplay section because I only have about 10 minutes left here for the rest of the stream. So we're going to talk about item recovery because that is on the core gameplay section. Just haven't really been able to tackle it in detail with you guys. This is going to be a short one. This is mostly for people who don't know where it's headed. And we kind of went over this during the monthly report review last week. So again, a little deja vu. One of the things is if Squadron 42 is set to release in Q3 or Q4 of 26, then the PU may be facing another year of no features next year. While I would agree with you, they are actively talking about engineering coming in the EPTU. So I don't think they're just not going to do features. Yeah. I don't think they're just not going to do features. But let's get to item recovery here. So this is one of the more controversial changes this year, but I do feel like the idea of item recovery is part of their whole playability thing. This is part of them saying we want players to feel more comfortable playing the game in this broken state. So we're going to do things to kind of hold hands and ease off some of the pain that you feel in dying to glitches in getting screwed by PvP that's not stopped from reputation or security, in randomly crashing and not being able to recover your stuff. So they brought in item recovery. I don't think, like, a lot of people think this is a permanent idea that they have. It's not. We've talked a bit about insurance and ship recovery and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at the recent monthly reports since they launched item recovery, you can see that they leave little tidbits about it. In May, item recovery is currently progressing with tasks for tier 1 progressing. Okay. that is the most wordsy way to be like, we're working on it. Said progressing twice in one sentence, huh?